Hey everyone, welcome to Chuck Talks, the AstroWorld edition. I'm so pumped up.
Me too. Thank goodness it's Friday. That's all I can say right now.
TGIF. So I'm Angie, and you are?
Amos.
And so this is a really special show because so many people in the area have had just a lot of childhood memories at AstroWorld, which is a theme park in the Houston area from 1968 to 2005. So this is actually the 15-year anniversary since the park closed. And it's one of those things, you never know what you have until you don't have it anymore. And absence makes the heart grow fonder and all this stuff. So people kind of, maybe take for granted AstroWorld's always going to be there. It's not there. And so it's one of those things that you don't realize, but so many people have fond memories. And so what we want to do with this show in particular is just in the comments, write what you miss about AstroWorld, maybe your favorite rides, the things that really brought you joy when you think about AstroWorld. So it's an interactive show, right?
Yeah. Definitely it's interactive. And also we want you to subscribe because we're streaming this on Facebook and YouTube now. And so we want people to be able to watch the show and share it and all that good stuff because we want to share memories. And the big reason for that is because this isn't just an episode about AstroWorld. This is much bigger. This is something that our special guests are going to talk about. It's about a love letter to AstroWorld, and it's an exhibit over at the Henning Cultural Center. And so our special guests today are?
Yes, so we have Thom Trahan, who's the executive director of the Brimstone Historical Society, and also Donald Hayes, his partner in crime, over at the Pearland Historical Society. He's the second vice president, and they are with us today. And by magic, we're going to make them appear. Hey, guys.
Hey, how are you?
So, Thom, why don't you wave so people can recognize you?
That's me.
Thom, that is an awesome shirt you got on there. Is that?
Oh, thank you. Yep, that's my Friday, casual Friday. Yep.
Okay, so just as Amos said, that you guys put this exhibit together because you're AstroWorld enthusiasts. It's something that you feel really passionate about. It's going to be at the Brimstone Museum, actually the Henning Cultural Center. September 3rd is when it opens. And one of the really cool things about this exhibit is not only do they have things that they're ready to showcase, but they also are looking for memorabilia. If you want to share your stories, your pictures, or actual physical memorabilia, they're still collecting that, and it can be included in the memory room that they'll have as part of the exhibit. So just tell our audience a little bit about why you guys came together, maybe your connection, your friendship, and how this idea developed. What was the inspiration behind it?
Well, sure. Well, the way it all kind of started is we do a show at the Henning Cultural Center every year entitled Chaos Theory. And in that show, we often include things that are pop culture themed that add to the exhibit, the artwork submitted from the locals. And so this year I decided that I would try to include some of my AstroWorld memorabilia. As a fan of the park, I've been collecting, artifacts and souvenirs for years, ever since the park closed for the most part. And so I have a large assortment of things like bottles and cups and coffee mugs and all kinds of just various, some people might call them junk items, but I've been collecting them for a while now and I'm pretty passionate about it. So as I started thinking about which of these items to include in this pop culture exhibit, Donald and I got to talking, and I know that he has a large collection of them as well. And the more we communicated about this, the more we realized that we could probably fill an entire show with just AstroWorld things. So as we started kind of workshopping the idea around the area and talking to other friends that remember going to the park, we decided that it's much too big of a show for just the both of us to be involved because there is such a passion and a connection in this community to that park. And so we decided to open it up and turn it into a whole show that was community-based.
Yeah, and it's almost like kind of people talk about cult classics. It's like turned into that. And so, Donald, you're actually from this area, correct?
That's right. I grew up in Moss Bluff, just outside of Lake Charles. And so my connection back to Southwest Louisiana was a physical one. I was going back and forth. And I lived in Pearland, which is only about 15 minutes south of Houston, also about 15 minutes from where the AstroWorld site was. And so I stopped in one day doing historical society business, stopped in to see Thom and his museum. And I you can tell a different story, Thom, but almost instantly, I think we connected and bonded over pop culture and our love of things like AstroWorld. And we contributed a few things a couple of years in a row to Chaos Theory. And as he said, that kind of brought it full circle. Hey, why don't we do an AstroWorld show?
Yeah, well, and you guys had a press release that went wild this week. So y'all put something out, over 116 media outlets, 8.8 million reach for that news. I mean, that's got to make you feel excited that there's that much energy and interest in the AstroWorld exhibit.
Absolutely. I think I kind of have a theory about that. I think that this whole world situation that we find ourselves in, like, people are just itching for connection. And this theme park really brought so many different groups of people together. It was such a diverse crowd that experienced and just enjoyed this piece of history. And so I really wanted to kind of open it up to people in this area to just reconnect to that feeling and that nostalgia of, like, going to a place with a lot of other people from different backgrounds and just having an awesome day, smiling and riding, thrilling rides and, eating very expensive food and, just enjoying a weekend or an afternoon with the family.
That's what you said in previous conversations too, that it was kind of like our Disney World, like we could go there and enjoy it. And like you said, it brought a lot of people together. And so for this exhibit, I know we're talking about AstroWorld, but AstroWorld, it's kind of like AstroWorld, Astrodome, Waterworld, all this stuff. So I don't know if you want to kind of talk about specifically what you guys will focus on for the exhibit.
Well, in the exhibit itself, we hope to have several different breaks that talk about the different aspects of the Astro domain, they called it. I don't want to focus too much on the outside fringes of it, the Astrodome or Waterworld. They will be mentioned in the exhibit for sure because they were a big part of this bigger thing. But for the focus of the exhibit, we're hoping to look specifically at AstroWorld and mention, those other aspects as like an add-on to the experience. As of this point, we're still deciding how to break up the exhibit into our room structure, but we're hoping to provide as close of an experience as we can not to the actual park, because that we'll never have that back, but just to hopefully rekindle some of those memories and some of that love for the park within the four walls of our building.
Well, and the thing is, like, you talk about 15 years, people who were 15 years old at the time or 30, they probably have kids or 35 and all of that. And, this is a chance for them to kind of have a little shared moment of their childhood with their kids. But then also with AstroWorld, it's kind of funny because, we don't go anywhere these days without a camera. Well, actually, to take photos or videos in our pocket. And our kids have that same thing too. But really, during the heart of whenever AstroWorld was open, there, wasn't the opportunity for people to have. People might have had cameras, but so some people who are watching may not even know like how to visualize AstroWorld. So let's maybe kind of paint that picture a little bit. But one of the things that everybody is familiar with who went to AstroWorld were those little keychains with the picture on the inside. And how cool were those? So you're there with your friends. You got to get the keychain photo. It's just one of those things. Or, maybe you would have a picture of yourself going down the roller coaster with some awkward, facial expression or something like that.
Auto snaps, yeah.
So I think we might have some retro pictures of Thom.
Maybe.
And then, okay, so Thom, you got to be the one with the glasses and the yellow shorts. I'm just kidding.
That's my favorite shirt of all time. I still wear that.
Oh my goodness! So this was actually in that keychain, and we also have some blackmail pictures of Donald.
Okay.
Back in the day. So there you go. Okay, so are you the one with the green stripes on your socks? Or?
Yeah, so I have the light colored tank top on. I'm on the right.
Oh, okay.
That's me greeting my older brother in 79 after he got off the Texas Cyclone for the very first time.
So let's take a look at the map itself of AstroWorld. So people can come on in. Don't forget, people, if you want to make comments about AstroWorld and some of your favorite memories, we can see those live. So is this an older version of the map that we're looking at? Is that the Astro tool?
Yes, that's pretty early in its history. AstroWorld Angie on June 1st, 1968. And it was the brainchild of really a legendary Houston figure, Judge Roy Hoffhines. He's kind of considered Houston's version of Walt Disney. And he had this vision. A lot of others helped him, a lot of ex-Disney Imagineers and things like that. And it started out with really kind of a humble dozen or so attractions. But over the years, it was open for 37 years total, closing in 2005. And by that time, it had expanded. There were the multiple parks. The rides had changed many times over. So you've got a long lifespan and of people who have experienced the park all through those eras have maybe, it's almost like variations on a theme. It was all kind of the same story, little tweaks that made each person's story different.
Yeah. So let's pull up a map from the 90s now so we can take a look at that. Oh my gosh. So yeah, it did, it did change over that span of time. So, okay. So there's like, I see Mexicanas jumping out at me. Thunder River. I remember that. I unfortunately wore blue jean shorts and went on that ride and then stayed another 2 hours at AstroWorld. So let's see if in the comments if people want to put what their favorite rides were. Of course, there's the Texas Cyclone, which was huge. One of the biggest, wooden roller coasters?
Wooden roller coaster. Designed in homage of the Coney Island wooden roller coaster.
Okay, yeah, because I remember that thing, and I was so scared to get on that. I don't know. Kind of rickety. Like, should I get on this thing? But it was always great fun. And of course, but my favorite one, I'll say, I really like Grease Lightning because the line would move really quickly. So you would go from like 0 to 60 miles an hour in four seconds, do all that, get down, and then run around and do it again.
Right back on it. Absolutely.
So, and so they also had like different kind of areas that were themed, and I didn't really remember that until we were talking about AstroWorld, and I kind of looked it up, and then some of the memories came back. But so what are some maybe kind of fun facts about AstroWorld, or some things that maybe whenever you guys were putting this together that you discovered?
Well, AstroWorld was home to a lot of firsts. So you mentioned Thunder River earlier. I have a postcard for that actually at the moment. I'll hold up really fast. Thunder River was one of the first river rapids rides. And so that was a pretty big deal when that was unveiled in the 80s. And then another one was there was a roller coaster named XLR8. It was a suspended coaster, and it was the first of its kind, the first successful suspended coaster of its kind in the country. So that was pretty a big deal. So I guess AstroWorld was kind of at the forefront of a lot of different types of innovation. Another interesting one is the Ultra Twister. It was the only coaster of its kind, and then when it was dismantled and moved, it was still the only one of its kind, where it would actually take you in the roller coaster and twist as you were going. I have a postcard for that one as well.
So cool! Oh, I remember that. Well, we have.
Those were.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Among the rides, those were very interesting. There were other firsts as well, but I'll save some of those for the exhibit. Another kind of interesting thing is that when the park was first developed, the judge that designed it recognized the fact that humidity and heat was going to play a factor in the park's attendance. Because you're talking about Houston, and it's hot and it's humid and it's wet. And so what they did was they partnered with Carrier, the air conditioning company, and they essentially built outdoor air conditioning for the entire park. It was a massive undertaking. They disguised the vents to where you couldn't even see that they were air conditioning the outside areas. And in some of the open air, like concession stands and things, and picnic bench areas. And so as a result, it brought the temperature down a really decent amount. In addition to having several interior areas that were air conditioned, like the lay down theater where you could see the planetarium and things. And in the Alpine sleigh ride, as you would ride on that coaster, they would go through an area where the temperature would drop like 10 degrees. There were lots of areas like that to kind of keep the crowd cool, and so they would want to stick around and come back for more.
Yeah. Oh, that is so interesting. I didn't realize that. So we have a couple of comments. Well, somebody likes the Starship, so we saw that. And then someone's asking about, was it Six Flags? Where was it? And it didn't start out as Six Flags, right? It was acquired, or yeah.
That's correct. It was privately owned, but it was put together by the Houston Sports Authority, as was the Astrodome, and it was always intended. The judge's vision was for this to be a whole plaza. So you had Astrodome, Astro Hall, the AstroWorld Hotel, and then you had that iconic pedestrian bridge, the only one of its kind at the time, a privately owned pedestrian bridge going across an interstate freeway that you would walk across or take the tram to get across to the opening gates of AstroWorld. So the Hopines family figured in the park until 1975, and then Six Flags entered the picture. And they actually had a 1-year lease in 75 with an option to purchase that they snapped up right away. And by 1976, then and on, it was a Six Flags park.
Yeah, I mean, that's just really cool because it was designed and then acquired and then kind of developed from there.
Right, so, and so the addition of the Looney Tunes characters and the Warner Brothers, the Batman ride and some of those things, that was all Warner Brothers, DC, Six Flags properties, intellectual property that they brought later.
Oh my gosh, the stand-up roller coaster. I just like when I heard that, because I was in high school, I was like, really? You stand up and then you go on a roller coaster? But I felt like I survived it. I'm here today. I survived the Batman exhibit. I mean, stand-up roller coaster. And so what about the exhibit itself? So when people come to exhibit, I see you have some things behind you. What are some of the things that you want people to know about, what they can expect when they go to the exhibit?
Well, since this will be a largely community-driven exhibit, we'd like to have some participation from the public. I'd love to hear stories or photos from the park. I have a room set aside in the exhibit that we will print and stick up photos and things, because I would really like for visitors to come and walk through that room and try to pick yourself out of those photographs. There were so many visitors of the park. I really see a lot of overlap in the experiences that were shared. And so it'd be great to pick out some stories and things like, wow, that's exactly what we did. We would go with our church youth group, or, we would go with our family or ball team or whatever. In addition to that, we have because this exhibit kind of started out as a way for me and Donald to show off our private collection of artifacts and really, like I said, junk. It'll be some of that will be spread throughout the gallery as well. And I say that kind of tongue in cheek because there are some really interesting parts of the actual park experience that we'll be putting on display. Several different artifacts that you might not expect to see in the museum, especially not in a small town, like ours or whatever. But it is something that I feel like is driven by the passion of those that have gone in the past. So, we'll show off some of our collections, hopefully show off some of the public's photos and stories, and have a shared, experience in this exhibit.
Okay, and
I'm sorry, I just want to jump in real quick because you were talking about artifacts and things like that, and I think I remember you guys mentioning one that was pretty big that you had to bring in.
Yeah.
In the case of one of the most interesting pieces of history that are coming in, we are still attempting to get Donald's Von Roll. What would you call it? Your AstroWay car.
You can either call it a gondola or a cabin. This is an actual AstroWay cab that would have taken you from the Alpine Village in one corner of the park all the way across, up in the air, all the way across to the old Oriental Village on the other side. And as it happens, when AstroWorld closed in 2005, they held a public auction, and people got to go in and buy whatever they could haul off, essentially. And it turned out that a gentleman that lives right here in Pearland, an antiques dealer by trade, bought a lot of things, including about a dozen of these AstroWorld cabs. And so I went and bought one. I couldn't not have one, knowing how close by they were. And so I went and bought it. And then I've teamed up with a couple of local people to do the restoration. And so hopefully the number 10 gondola, you'll see it there in the doorway of the Henning Cultural Center, I guess. It won't take you up in the air, but you will see it there.
Oh, come on. Y'all need to make that happen.
Next year.
Like zip line in the gondola or something.
Yeah, we need a little bit better budget for sure.
Well, and then also, you were talking about people going with different groups. So that's one of the questions that we wanted to poll the audience about too. So whenever you went to AstroWorld, did you go with your church group or were you in cheerleading? Like, I know Thom was in cheerleading.
Yeah. Yay.
The different types of groups that you went with. I know I went with cheer. I don't think I ever went with choir, but there were some class trips and things like that. And then some people just went, to just kick off summer, just go to the car. And we wouldn't even stay the night a lot of times. So we would just go have fun all day long and then drive back home because it was just so close.
Sure.
Especially with a big group of kids,
And here's another Lake Charles connection for you, Angie. I didn't think about this when we talked before, but one of the trips that I took over was with the putt-putt group. I actually played junior putters with the putt-putt course that's there in Lake Charles, owned by the Simpson family. And they would take a group of kids every year. And so I have a photo that I'm going to put into the exhibit of us. I think we're in the Americana Square where you dressed up in period costume and you're all in a group photo. We're going to contribute that too.
Oh, well, that's so super cool. I'm just so excited about this exhibit and just to be able to share this little piece of my childhood with my kids and have them kind of just, bring their imagination to life of what was available just 2 hours down the road. And it's sad that they're not able to experience that. But I realize that there is a cycle and things come and go, but still, it's still big. And I think that's why so many people are interested in this exhibit, because it did hold a special place in our hearts and in our memories, whenever we were growing up and things like that.
I absolutely agree, Angie. And one of the interesting things, a fun fact about when AstroWorld opened in '68, it opened with about 1,200 employees, of which about 1,000 were high school and college age students. So if you do the math, we're 50 years on from that. So that's now a group of senior citizens, but they are the ones who originally staffed the park, and they have all kinds of great stories. They have a Facebook group for AstroWorld employees, 68 to 2005, and they tell all kinds of amazing stories about what went on behind the scenes, the things you never would have known about if you just visited the park.
Well, so before we wrap up with sort of like how to submit their, memorabilia and things like that, is there anything else that you guys want to share that we haven't touched on?
Well, I really want to thank some of the people that are kind of helping to make this exhibit happen. We were fortunate enough to receive a grant from the local Arts and Humanities Council, the Lake Charles Arts and Humanities Council, and the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury to do some of the production of this exhibit. And then we're also partnering with Image 360 to get some of the exhibit panels prepared and printed. And we've used them for years in our permanent displays here at the museum, and they've just been really high quality. And so we approached them with this exhibit, and they were very excited to lend a hand. So we're really looking forward to putting that material together and getting it on the wall for people to come and enjoy.
Well, that's great. And I like the fact that you're going to have sort of like some historical panels so that people can kind of see the progression of it. So it's an educational exhibit, as well as just having, paraphernalia or memories and pictures and things like that. Like there's a history to it. There's a timeline. People can walk away from it, even if they experienced it firsthand. After they go to this exhibit, they can walk away with a little bit more perspective on AstroWorld and how it was, conceived and all until 2005, whenever the park had to close.
And I think it'll help people kind of ground themselves in their place in the park's history, like when they were attending, what they were seeing there. And it may even spark some memories like, oh, I remember that aspect of the park that I didn't quite remember before. So I think that'll really help a lot. And I would also like to thank the contributors to the exhibit. So far, we've received quite a few photos submitted and stories to our Facebook page and to our website. And so I'd like to encourage those to keep going. We've had some artifacts and stuff. Donald has helped to co-curate this exhibit, and he knows of a few that have reached out and wanted to be a part of it. So, we'd like to thank all those that are helping to make this exhibit a reality.
Yeah, I'm just going to show it to you if I have a minute, Angie. Things that are coming in and things that have, been collected from different people, and we're going to add all that in. I want you to take a look at this binder.
What?
AstroWorld binder that came from a local pop culture enthusiast and historian, and this is his AstroWorld binder. It's got He works security for the Southern Star Amphitheater. So he's got all kinds of things about the concert history. That may have been people's first experience at the park, was seeing a concert. So we're hoping to curate that a little bit more here in the next 30 days and really have an amazing show.
Oh my goodness, that is quite the find. So everybody, go in your attic, call up your parents, and try to go through some old pictures. I'm sure that you'll find some, just things like that. It's so much fun. Well, and then just to let everybody know, you do not have to leave your original photos. You're scanning them in, or if people want to send a digital version of it, scan it in themselves and send it, that you're not going to be keeping the original actual, floppy Kodak or something like that.
Right. Or at the museum, we also have equipment available. If you'd like to come and bring it here, we can scan it for you and return your original to you. And I'd be glad to email you a digital copy of it as well once it's scanned, so that you can have it for your own record. So I would love to do that. It would add to our collection and just add to the local knowledge bank.
Right. And if you don't have an actual picture, but if you just have like a really cool story, that's okay too. That if people just want to send you the written word, then that's something that can still be So okay guys, well it has been so much fun going down memory lane with you, and just doing some research for this show, and it just, like you were saying, you just get flooded back with memories. Just when you were talking about the lay down theater, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that now. It's kind of buried in the cobwebs and all of that. But so I'm excited to kind of relive some of that by going to the exhibit. So thank you guys so much. And don't forget that the show starts September 3rd. It runs through October the 15th, and you can submit your memories, and if it's written word or if it's pictures, brimstonemuseum.org, or you can call up Thom, and if you have something bigger or something that you want to bring that you can't email, obviously you can't email artifacts. So just call him up and make arrangements. But thank you guys for your enthusiasm and your imagination and your passion for AstroWorld.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.